Nation. Hey, how is everyone doing today? Welcome to a Sunday morning pop up alive here at NBT Studios. Been on the road all week. It was a great week being in the classroom, delivering some particular types of training, kind of with a leadership flavor to it. But I'm back at NBT World Headquarters. So excited to dive into how do we line out? How do we quickly organize? How do we quickly build out an ongoing development program? That's the topic of today's NBT Live. I am so excited to dive into this. Been thinking about this all week, everybody, and I hope all of NBT Nation is having a wonderful Sunday morning. Lots to discuss, lots to unpack. But so often I see in smaller to medium sized organizations, they struggle just to do training, period. They struggle of getting started with training. And obviously, that's what NBT is here to help with. Whether you're the leader of the organization, whether you're a full time corporate trainer, whether you're just thrown into the role, you're brand new to training, maybe you just pivoted over from education. Either way, a lot of companies struggle with just lining out and organizing a formalized training process. And usually, where companies will get going is either onboarding or some preliminary training when somebody joins the firm, which is great. That's a great starting point. It's a logical starting point. However, what if or what happens after that first month or two of employment, that first period of time with the company? Well, quite obviously, that's typically where organizations start to see a stagnation in performance, or perhaps you start to see people developing bad habits and maybe going a little bit backwards after the first few months of joining a firm. They come in all excited, and then within a few weeks, months, that performance starts to dip. So, what do you do? Well, you do ongoing development. And that's what we're here to talk about today. If you're out there in BT Nation, drop me a line in the chat feed. Let me know where you're at. Let me know what your organization does for ongoing development training. Do they have a program? Do they not have a program? What's the best ongoing development program you've ever addressed? Have you even just sat through a boring, horrible, awful, miserable, boring training? Whatever. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what's going on and how everybody is doing out there today. So, anyway, hair is kind of wild today. I'm not sure how much longer this long haired, no boring training is going to stay. What do you think, BT Nation? Maybe I should make that a poll question. Keep the flowing locks, or have I let it go too far? Anyway, ongoing development. It is really common for organizations to see their new hires stagnate or even backslide a little bit when it comes to performance. They acquire bad habits, they lose connection with corporate culture, they lose connection with standardized procedures, they start to get hand-me-down information. The If there is an existing sort of onboarding or pre-training, early training, the things that they learn there get watered down once the individual gets in the field, and maybe the field manager doesn't reinforce or carry forward what they learned early on. There's a bunch of different reasons, but regardless of reason, that performance dip starts to happen. It starts to show up in reviews, it starts to show up in morale, it starts to show up in customer satisfaction. So what do you do? What do you do? That's what we're going to unpack here. I'm going to give you a really simple roadmap to get you started. So, number one, let's just dive in here on this Sunday morning pop-up live. And let me throw that up on the screen. If you want to learn more about this subject, of course, visit noboringtraining.com. Anyway, here we go. Step number one, you're going to line out an ongoing development program. Number one, look at your overarching business strategy. Is it clear? Is it actionable? And have people bought into it? If you don't have an overarching business strategy that's clearly outlined, clearly communicated, broken down into all of its fundamental pieces, that strategy is then put into articulable and actionable steps for each function of your business, and your team hasn't really understood it, let alone said, yep, that sounds good to me. All of the rest of this is wasted space. Start with your strategy. It blows my mind that leaders want to invest in new initiatives, new software, new programs, people, process systems, all the things, and they don't step back and say, does my team understand the strategy? And do they buy into it? Are they engaged with it? Or have they become disconnected from the strategy? I mean, that just blows my mind from a leadership perspective. But if we're looking at ongoing development and maximizing the performance of the team, if there's no clear strategy, what are you going to train them on? You're just going to train them on a bunch of tasks and a bunch of stuff, but it's not geared towards or tied to that overarching strategy. Again, you're going to miss out. You're not going to get the performance gains that you would like to get. Let's put it that way. So, take a look at your overarching business strategy. Is it clear? Is it actionable? Is it lined out for all the different functions of your business? Is it communicated? Does the team buy into it? Start with that. And that gets quickly on to point number 2. List all the skills, knowledge, and attributes a top flight, world class GOAT, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Kobe level, awesome, Ronaldo, pick your superstar. What does that superstar talent employee for a specific job role need to learn to achieve maximum performance to contribute to that strategy? So let me read that again. List all the skills, knowledge, and attributes a top flight employee in a specific job role needs to learn to achieve maximum performance and contribute to the overall strategy of the business. Get a whiteboard, get a flip chart, get a piece of paper. Think about all the different job roles in your organization. Line them out in logical clusters. Then step back and say, okay, for this specific job role, what does an all-star need to know? What does an absolute stud, a beast, a monster, somebody who's going to absolutely crush it and dominate in this role, what are the different things they need to learn? What's the knowledge they need to know? What do they need to be able to execute on? What do they need to be able to start doing and stop doing? What are the policies and procedures they need to know and be able to act on? What are the legislative requirements, if there are any, for that job role? But list it all out. What is the recipe of stuff that an absolute rock star, an absolute total somebody terminator is just going to come in and just be an unstoppable force in that particular job role? What are they? And what are the skills that are not only going to lead to their performance in that role, but they tie to the strategy that you outlined in step number 1? Just map all that out. Get a dry erase board. Again, map out all the different job roles, and then what bullet point skills, knowledge, attributes, abilities, what are all the things that an individual would need to know? Now, this is going to take a little bit of time. If you have a small firm with maybe, 7 or 8 people, not a big deal. If you have a big firm with maybe 50 people or 100 people and all sorts of different job functions, it's going to take more time. But this is a super worthwhile step, because now what you've done just in step 1 and step 2, you've said, here is my strategy, and here are what people need to know, not only to be successful in their role, but to drive that strategy forwards. I'll give you a practical example. Let's say your overarching strategy is that your salespeople are going to be wildly knowledgeable about your products. Like, they're going to be walking, who needs an AI chatbot, because our sales team knows the products upside down and inside out. Well, guess what? Your training, your ongoing development program better drive home all of that product knowledge. Let's say your strategy is speed of execution. It's frontline customer service. Maybe it's a retail environment. Well, guess what you focus your ongoing development around? Increasing levels of customer service. And it could be the basics of customer service, it could be advanced level topics, what to do when somebody's completely unsatisfied and losing their minds and freaking out. What do you do when somebody doesn't quite communicate what their needs are, and how do you help draw that out of the customer without being pushy? Maybe it's understanding different behavior types. Maybe it's green flags to look for in a buying customer, whatever. It could be a whole range of different things. But if you're wanting to have a world class, amazing customer service experience as part of your overarching business strategy, well, then teach your team how to give a world class customer service experience. I mean, this stuff ain't hard, folks. It's just not that hard. But we make it hard, and that's part of why NBT exists. So, outline your overarching business strategy, and then for each job function in your business, what are all the things that individual needs to know to not only crush it, but help drive that strategy forwards. Two really important steps that you need to work through to outline an ongoing development program. Step number 3, put all of the items above that would be, or pull out all of the items above that would have already been addressed in onboarding or initial job skills training programs, assuming you have any. Assuming you have onboarding and assuming you have some sort of job focused training thing, cross those off the list because you've already covered them. So now you have a dry erase board, you have a flip chart, you have a piece of paper, you've listed off everything somebody needs to know. Now you exclude the stuff that you already cover in onboarding and job skills training. If you don't have onboarding or job skills training, then why are we talking about ongoing development? Go back and do that first. And if you watch the channel here, there's lots of resources from NBT about how to quickly set up an onboarding program, how to line out a job skills, job focused, basic training type program. We can help you with all that. But for this exercise, we're talking ongoing development. Pull out everything you'd cover early on. Here's where things get even crazier. Now, you're going to take this laundry list of topics, right? You've got a whole dry erase board with 10,000 different things you'd want somebody to learn to absolutely dominate and be the most amazing fill in the blank job role person and help them drive your strategy forward. You're going to have a whole bunch of stuff written down. Now what you're going to do is prioritize those topics based on some sort of logical time frame, logical progression, legislative needs, dependent knowledge, performance management framework, whatever. So in other words, you're going to take all of those things, and my recommendation is to build in 3-month blocks. In every quarter, we're going to learn this set of information. The next quarter, we're going to learn this. The next quarter, we're going to learn this. But look at the first 3 months after onboarding, after any sort of like basic training you might provide. In the next 3 months, from that list of stuff you have on the dry erase board or a flip chart, what do they got to learn in the first 3 months after basic training? I mean, this stuff ain't hard, right? But prioritize them, outline them. Think about, okay, they get done with an onboarding, they get done with some sort of basic training. In the next 3 months, normally, what are the next sets of things we need to teach them? Now, that could be based just on logical progression and dependent knowledge. You got to learn how to fill out form XYZ before you can then teach them how to fill out form ABC, because XYZ flows into ABC. So if you don't learn this, you can't learn that. So it could just be a logical progression. Maybe you've got a medical firm, and You have to learn the basic level procedures before you get to the more advanced procedures. So in the first 3 months, we really just want you to focus on really mastering and getting good at assisting with XYZ basic procedure. And that's what we're going to focus on. Maybe it's sort of some sort of legislative requirement. You've got a job role where there's governing bodies or licensure or something, and that's already all mapped out for you from some governing body or approvals, certification type thing, and that's fine. But even not, synchronizing your training with an overarching governing body's recommendations or timeframes makes a lot of sense. It may just be normal learning curve for your job role. So some job roles, your learning curve is whatever, a month or two. In a month or two, people kind of ramp up to effectiveness. In some job roles, it's 2, 3, 4, or 5 years just because it's such a complicated and demanding thing. But you might want to think about what is the normal period of ramp that most average new people have. And then from that normal ramp, okay, what are the first 3 months of things they need to do to start that ramp process? So, this step of the process, you really take all of the topics that you have on the board, look at the first 3 months after basic training is done. What are the things they need to know then? And you start to fill all that in. You prioritize them. You put them in some sort of order that makes sense, or priority list, urgency list. The next step, do it again for the next 3 months. Look at the, months, I guess that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. What do they need to learn in months 4, 5, 6? And then once you get that done, you do the next block of 3 months, and you get that done, and you get the next block of 3 months. I really like to space things out over a relevant time period. I use 3 months just because it's simple. It's based on quarters. But that may not make sense for your business. It may be weeks that makes more sense. It may be half years that make more sense. It may be full years that make more sense, whatever. But I like to look at these specific time blocks and then orient the learning around that time block, because that does a number of different things. One is if you have a dry erase board with 1,000 things that everybody has to learn, it is like, oh my God, where do we even start? So by looking at the time block, what's the first time block? Put all the stuff that makes sense in the first time block. It makes it easier. It also gives you the ability at the end of that time block, whatever relevant time block you choose, to do a little bit of evaluation. Are they on track? Are they above the pace? Or are they below the pace in terms of development? So those relevant time blocks then become a very helpful performance management framework, or a very helpful time frame to touch base, check in, and make sure people are actually developing and growing. When you look at those relevant time blocks and you're doing the evaluation at the end, now you can start tracking progression. You can start developing, how are you going to measure that they do in fact know it? Is there going to be some testing? Is there going to be some practical evaluations? Is there going to be some ride-alongs maybe out in the field? Is it going to be feedback from their peers? All the above, none of the above. It's going to prompt you to think about, well, how are we going to measure and say, yeah, they're on track, or no, they're not? And now you start to build some documentation. And that documentation is really there to see, okay, we're trying to teach you all these things to make you the Tiger Woods, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, pick your superstar. We're trying to get you to here. Here's where you're at. There's a gap. How do we get you there? It's not documentation like corporate documentation. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about that. But how do I get you from here to here? You're here. We got to do something different. How do we get you there? So you start with the overarching business strategy. You list out all the skills, knowledge, attributes a absolute top flight employee would need to learn to achieve maximum performance for a job role, and what they need to learn to push that strategy forwards. Pull out all the items that you would have covered in an onboarding and some sort of basic training, assuming you have one. Prioritize the topics they need to learn in the first 3 months. Then in the next 3 months, the next 3 months, the next 3 months, keep repeating that until you get to some relevant time frame. That helps you to get a roadmap, to get a direction, to get you going in a pointed in a direction. What I really like about that whole approach too is that it spreads the learning out over time. You can't go if a job role, say it's marketing or something, and you hire an individual and you have 30 things that you would like to train them on after you hire them. If you try to train them on all 30 things in the first week, it's not going to work. Some things need to be spread out over time. Maybe they need a little bit of experience in the field first before you teach them something, at the 1 year mark. Because if they don't have the experience, when they get to the 1 year subject, it's not going to make any sense to them. They're not going to have the relevant background to absorb and be able to apply that information. So you want to spread the information out so they have a better shot to learn it. That also gives them a chance for that information to sink in a little bit and for them to go use the information. So if you have 30 things and you try to teach it all in the first couple weeks, number one, you're not really developing them over time. They don't get all the things, but then they don't really have the ability to go out and apply that information, stress test it in the real world. But if you say in month 4, tackle XYZ topic, and then the game plan is that for the next, until month 5, you learn something in month 4, and then you're going to learn something new in month 5. But between month 4 and 5, you're practicing month 4 stuff. And now their managers can coach them on it and give them feedback, and they can do practical exercises, and they can refer back to your explainer videos that you provided them. And they can go back to the resources that you give them, the handouts and the guides and the work aids. They can go back to work instructions and procedures and all these things because they're actually applying the information from the month 4 lesson. They're using it in the real world. Here on the channel, we like to talk about it's not just remembering and recalling information. It's about being able to apply the information to get maximum impact. So give them some time to apply it. And you do that by spreading the development out over a period of time and by building out in 3-block increments or whatever time block that makes sense for you. Now you have this very structured roadmap. I built a ongoing development program one time and spread it out over the better part of a year or so. And it was absolutely amazing to see the people that you were able to see the progression of learning. You were able to see how the topics were getting progressively more impactful. And if the audience absorbed what they were learning, you could actually see their performance. You could see how they would grow as an employee and be able to do so much more and help the customer so much more and have so much more skill and ability to contribute to the organization just by looking at the topics. Of course, that assumes they learn the topics, apply the topics. Their field manager synchronizes the topics to what's actually being measured and pushed and talked and reinforced. But you can see it when you spread that information out over time. All right. In BT Nation, we are talking about how do you line out a ongoing development program. You don't know where to start. You're kind of overwhelmed. So we're walking through it. Let me give you a quick summary before we get to the last point. Number one, start with an overarching business strategy. Number two, list all the skills, knowledge, and attributes a top flight employee would need in a specific job role, not only to crush performance, but to drive that strategy forward. Make the topics in alignment with the strategy that you're trying to achieve. Pull out all the stuff that you would naturally cover in an onboarding or some sort of basic welcome to the company type training. Pull all that out. Look at what do you need to know, or what makes sense to teach in the first 3 months or some other relevant time block. Fill in that first 3 months with a logical number of courses, a logical number of sessions, learnings, whatever. And then look at the next 3 blocks. Fill that in. Look at the next 3 blocks. And eventually you're going to get to a point where you say, hey, okay, this is a great ongoing development roadmap. There you go. Now you got your roadmap, right? The last piece of the puzzle, go back through that laundry list of topics that's now all spelled out in a segmented by month or segmented by quarter approach plan. Look at all of those and then go back and label how you would deliver this training using a layered learning approach. And if you're spent any time at all here on the channel, you'll know I am a huge proponent and advocate and user of a layered learning approach where you have knowledge available in a variety of different layers. Not everything needs to be a full-blown, week-long, in-person workshop. You don't have time for that in terms of performance or operations. It's really expensive. Maybe there's travel involved. So how else do you deliver training? Well, you could do a virtual workshop. You could do a mini boot camp. You could do explainer videos. You could have a SharePoint site with all sorts of self-help references or guided learnings. You could have an e-learning LMS system that complements what you already have. You could have a podcast. You could have well-crafted emails that go out on a regular basis. You could utilize your daily meetings, stand-up huddles, shift change meetings, weekly touch bases, and incorporate some training into that. You could build training that the field manager then delivers. There's a gazillion different ways to deploy a lot of learning and knowledge out to an organization that's very scalable based on the depth of learning that's needed and the disruption to operations you can afford. It's based on the depth of learning that you're trying to achieve and the disruption to operations. If you need absolute mastery of a subject, guess what? You're pulling people offline, and you do have to have instructor-led training. And you got to spend a lot of time on it to get that deep, rich knowledge. But you will now impact operations because somebody's getting pulled offline for a week or multiple weeks. At the very other end of the spectrum, you say, I can't afford to pull anybody offline at all. I just need them, I cannot interrupt my operations. That's fine. It's a business. You got to be cognizant of the disruption to operations. I can't afford any of it. So small impact on operations. I'm going to do a micro training video, a little quick 2-minute explainer video. That's really cool because you're not impacting operations, but the depth of learning is very shallow. In a 2-minute video, you're just really scraping the surface of one little simple topic. So layered learning, it's a delivery of learning and knowledge to make it super easy and accessible for the team member to get to that knowledge, but it's scaled based on depth of learning or impact to operations. I took a minute to explain all that because layered learning is really a fantastic way to get huge top-line metric impact. So now that you have a dry erase board with all these topics on it, all neatly organized by quarter, or maybe a piece of paper, maybe a spreadsheet, you go back and you look at what are the topics that absolutely positively need a deep dive in-person session or virtual instructor led session, either way, in person or virtual. But it needs it to be an instructor led session where we pull people offline and spend a significant period of time. Whatever it is they're learning, it needs the full focus. What are the things that, you know what, we just need a little quick thing to help remind people of good best practices. Or I need to have a little quick thing that's a quick reference if somebody needs, maybe it's an assembly process and you need somebody to just see a quick little video of, now hold the two pieces this way and then turn them back and then push them down. And you just have that little quick 2-minute video. You get it out to your frontline team. And then when they're assembling stuff, they can go and do that and they can see it, watch the video, replicate it. Great. What's on your list that can be accomplished that way? Now, their depth of learning is still going to be very shallow because you just have that little quick video with no real explanation behind it. What are those topics that you can handle with a little quick explainer video? Go through and circle all those on your list here. What are the ones that maybe need maybe not a full-blown instructor-led, pull everybody offline, big program, but it needs maybe a couple 1-hour sessions or a couple 2-hour sessions. It still needs that instructor-led touch, but it's short and sweet instead of a big, long program. Maybe there's stuff that you build a set of work instructions. Maybe you use something like Scribe. I'm not affiliated with them whatsoever, but you use something like that to create some work instructions with pictures and graphics, step by step. Throw some more explainer videos in there, maybe a little PowerPoint guide, toss it all up on a SharePoint site, whatever. There's a gazillion different ways to deploy layered learning across your organization. But at this step of the process, what you're doing, if I haven't been clear, is you're taking that laundry list of topics that are now organized by quarter, and you're thinking about each one of those topics. How am I going to deliver this? And the reason for that is most organizations cannot tolerate pulling everybody offline every 5 seconds to go into training for weeks on end. At some point, you got to do the job. Number one, you got to do it to learn, to apply yourself, to get the repetition, to build confidence, all those things. But number two, you got to make some money. This is a company, right? So you use the layered learning to really dial in the right amount of learning for the topic in the time block so you're not disrupting operations. Once you line all that out and you go through this all takes discussion back and forth, bringing in subject matter experts, bringing in the people that would deliver the training, bringing in field managers for their opinion, bringing in frontline users. Once you line all this out, and it's really simple. I mean, I covered it in half an hour, but that's because I'm explaining things. Start with the overarching business strategy, list all the skills and knowledge by job role of what people need to know to be awesome in that job role and drive that strategy forward. Pull out all the items that you're naturally going to cover in onboarding or a basic training type program. Pull those all out. Now prioritize all the remaining topics in 3-month increments. What makes sense to learn here, then here, then here, then here. And once you have that out, go back and look at all those topics and start to think about how are you going to deliver them using a layered learning approach, and which one gets the little quick hit, which one gets a full workshop, which one gets just touched on in a stand-up meeting, which one's an email. Guess what? You go through all that work. Now you have the agenda, the outline, the syllabus, the curriculum of an ongoing development program. Pretty cool, huh? It's really not that hard. That formula will quickly paint the map of what you need to now you got to go build all the stuff. You got to start delivering all the stuff. You got to go actually turn this roadmap into action. But this is a way to build out that agenda. Build out that criterion or curriculum. This is the way to build out that curriculum. And once you have it all mapped out, now you can go get buy-in from the senior leadership. You can go get buy-in from all the managers. You can, like I said, start building content, all that, and it's all done in a row. You can tackle the ones that make sense from you. So there you have it, MBT Nation. What do you think? Helpful? Questions, comments, things I need to clarify? Leave me some comments in the chat feed. If you're watching this on replay, be sure to do the same thing. I'll be curious to see what you think. But setting up an ongoing development program really is not that challenging to get started. It's really just a matter of diving in and lining everything out. And then once you do that, then you got to build the content, and then you got to get good at delivering the training. But that's what No Boring Training's here to do, or here to help you with all that. Excited because this is, we learning and development. A lot of time we focus on the learning piece, and we don't spend as much time on the development piece. So this is, we're putting the D in development. So there you have it, NBT Nation. Lots going on this week. Going to be at the NBT World Headquarters, so hope to get another NBT Live in before I head out onto the next trip. Of course, the ebook, The Hard Truths of Becoming No Boring Trainer, 60 pages, 20 hard truths, 15 infographics, and loads of practical details on how to deliver interesting and effective training. Is available at noboringtraining.com. If you go to products, you can find it there for less than the price of a cup of coffee. You can get everything that is really the centerpieces of NBT thought on how to have interesting and effective training. It's all the stuff I wish I would have known when I first started getting kind of going down this learning and development pathway, this training pathway. So check it out, Hard Truths of Becoming a No Boring Trainer. So PDF for download, super easy. Check it out at noboringtraining.com. So there you have it, NBT Nation. How do you outline an ongoing development program? Again, super simple roadmap. If you follow the steps that we discussed here, you can quickly map out a really nice ongoing development program. Really sets the stage for some great discussion internally in your organization, so that you're really getting the right learning happening at the right time to not only drive performance, but then move the strategy of the organization forwards. And that's why it's so important that the very first step is that you are aligned, make sure your strategy exists and is communicated and bought into. So there you have it, my friends. I hope everybody is having a great rest of your Sunday. More to come this week from No Boring Training. Thanks for joining me here on another fun No Boring Training. Good Lord. No, thank you for joining me on another NBT Live. Thanks, everyone.